Thanks for joining me. I know it's a crazy week with the holiday uh, and everything else we have going on, trying to complete. But I wanted to take this minute. I know you all helped us beta test the new paperless parts ordering for technicians, and just wanted to kind of get y'all's impressions. So uh, I guess we can start out. Hector, what was your experience using the new process?
Well, I guess once we got it all worked out, uh, it's pretty easy. Maybe some of the stuff, instead of entering a number in, could have been dropped down, like the rolls of tubing. Where I don't think we're going to order more than one or two at a time, stuff like that. But it seemed pretty easy. Makes me more likely to order stuff for production.
You're more likely to place your order now.
Yes.
I'll pretend I didn't hear that.
Well, it does go to Hector's point. I understand. I think what you mean is that, when you have to, if you don't have the paper and you've got to print it out and then you got to make a copy and everything, it can be more cumbersome to place an order. So while you're probably keeping up with what you need to get by, you might not be staying fully stocked at all times, which could run into a problem, right? So with this process,
right? Unless there's three different order forms, and on here there's just one.
Yeah, so you might miss something, a tool, or your siphon pump is broken. It's not on that sheet. You got to go track down what the part number is. So this has everything on there. So I can appreciate that from a concept of trying to make things simple. It's all there. Marco, when you were going through, and if you guys don't mind, mute when you're not talking. But Marco, when you were going through it, how'd you feel about the categories and everything? Was it somewhat intuitive?
I mean, it's kind of, you got to kind of navigate for it to kind of like see where everything's at. One of my things was when I first tried it, it was like I couldn't find spin touch discs.
Because they're not with the spin touch parts or the test kits.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, so like you said, spin touch, I clicked on it and I was like, okay.
But you can get new syringes.
Yeah, I can, yeah.
You don't have to steal mine out of my office anymore.
I only stole them once. That was it, just once. And
yeah.
Maybe you're...
Any other things that jump to mind besides the spin touch disc? Because that I did kind of track when I saw that, and it might have made sense on the spreadsheet, but it would be better with either the spin touch parts or the test kits.
Yeah, exactly. Because then I went to test kits.
Yeah, I would think that the spin touch will be with where the spin touch where it is. If it's kind of intuitive, it should be like there, not in test kit, because test kit, you're using chemicals and other stuff, not exactly the spin touch.
I agree with you guys 100%. I think that's part of that when we took, like Hector mentioned, 3 different lists and combined them. Some stuff didn't necessarily go where it would make sense now. Before, it made sense for it to be on a different list, but now it should be there. Anything else that jumped out at you, Marco?
Well, I got some errors, of course, but Sean messaged, that those were fixed. But like Hector said too, just some of them might be, nice as a little drop down instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we definitely want to improve on this, as we talked about when we were catching up in the parking lot. And I'm looking forward to this becoming a really even more simple process for everyone. Nico, as far as I know that maybe an individual part or item might not have been where you were expecting it, but as far as navigation and completing the process, was that easy? Was it?
So completing it, it's pretty easy. Just you just select what you want, or you put the number of parts you need, and just complete it. As far as the drop down, there's some parts that can apply for it. There's some parts that not. Just depends on the quality of each one that we carry.
Mm-hmm.
I will also say we gotta watch out for whatever we think it's missing. Because, for example, I did an order for tank links, and in the level sensor part, the bulkheads for them are not there.
Good
So,
point. Because that's that hasn't been on any of those lists before. So the bulkheads and the parts for doing events aren't on there. Very good point. We'll make sure that those get added to it. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, so it's just so we gotta keep an eye on parts that were in the list or anywhere else, and maybe go adding them to the list.
Yeah, really good point. And I would encourage, since this video is going to be seen by everybody, I'll encourage everyone to do this. But also, you get Nico, if you wouldn't mind taking ownership of that one item that you identified, if you could post an FSL feedback and put the name of the part and the part number in there and say, hey, Sean, this is missing. Could this be added to the tank link section? And then I'll let Sean know to go ahead with that. But everybody who's watching this video, if you see that there's a part missing where it's not missing on purpose, it's because there's 170 items and we just spaced on that one. So put the name of the part and the part number into FSL feedback, and we will get it added, and maybe recommend what category it should go under. And some of them maybe it would fit multiple places, but we'll give what you think it should be, and we might change that, but it'll help get the process rolling. So really good feedback, guys. How's your confidence level on this? Are you looking forward to it? Are you dreading it?
I like it. It's pretty extreme. Like, you just don't have to go every time. And if you see like item schedule, just go to a place where you're gonna need some parts that you don't have carry or something, you can just order them ahead of time more efficiently. At least that's the way I do it. Another feedback is the email that you receive after you submit the part order. I think it's a lot clogged. Like, there's a lot of clog with all the parts being in there without even having ordered them.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of get lost in it. Where is the thing that you order? So,
yeah, it's definitely on our roadmap. Right now, there's not a solution for it that works. And so we'd asked, and if you guys watched the full discussion I did with Sean on this process, it is on our roadmap that we're going to relook in the spring and see if there's now a solution that can be implemented for it, because they do 3 times a year updates to Salesforce. And you guys check your microphones if we're getting some background noise, but Salesforce does upgrades or updates 3 times a year, and so we're hoping with the next update. There's not one right now, but hopefully in the next update, we'll be able to implement a solution to streamline that, and maybe give you guys, because it is. I think there's 2 ways of looking at it, right? One is it's nice that long list is nice if you're worried about if you missed something, because you can see, there is the part name and part number, and I didn't order it. The downside of it is that most of the time you're not going to probably scroll through that list, especially if you're staying up on stock and placing an order, twice a week during the summer and once a week during the off season or the PM and training season. So, good point. And it is something we're looking at. Hector, overall confidence level on this, thoughts on it?
Pretty good. I like it a lot. There's not going to be any more arguing with Anthony. Hey, did we order this or did we order that? And emailing is easier than emailing it into.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask is, would there be any value at all in putting one more thing on the list just as a catch-all, where if it's not on the list, we can just put the part number down and the quantity?
So unfortunately, we can't do that because this is all automated. And so if we were to do some sort of text field and a quantity field, it wouldn't flow into production for them to actually pull it. It would just be a note somewhere, and it might get lost. So I think I see where you're going with that, and I don't think it's a bad idea. It just wouldn't have the result we want. And so I think the probably the right thing to do is post it in FSL feedback channel, and then we'll get it added. And if it's something that is like emergent, I need it on this order, send in that email to production, CC me so that I can follow up with Sean and make sure we get it added. But take care of it that way, because I know there's parts that we use regularly throughout the company, but that aren't necessarily something everyone stocks. And so the nice thing about this system is that it actually can be expanded a lot further. And as I was talking with Marco when we were catching up, one of the things that I'm hoping for is that we're going to actually have loadouts for vehicles. So for someone who is spending a lot of their time in water treatment, their loadout is going to be different. And when they go to submit a PAR inventory, it's going to be making sure that they're staying up to par on the stuff that's important for water treatment. If you're mostly in water management, the loadout is going to be mostly that stuff. Installation, service, and repair, same thing. You're going to see different lists automatically, but then also we can have the non-standard stuff in there, and you'd be able to order it. It's just not going to. It's not going to, be its own category, basically. So that's my goal and my hope. As you guys know, Hector, you've been here. Who's been here longer, Marco or Hector?
Me by a few months.
By a few months?
I think so.
Yep, age before beauty.
Well, so I'm going to leave that one alone. But no, you guys have seen a lot of changes at Poolsure in your tenure here. And up some things for the hopefully most for the better. Sometimes it can be difficult, like having to deal with me is always a pleasure, I know. But yeah, so that's hopefully where we get, where if it's something that you need to complete the job, it's going to be on there, and it wouldn't matter what it is, so that's the goal. Any thoughts?
I have a question.
Sure.
Is on the regular parts order form, we have a limit to how many we can order. Is there a trigger that will send off? Let's say I order 50 number 3 feed tubes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there going to be like an alert that's going to be sent out, like, hey, this tech's ordering 50?
Not right now. Right now, what happens is that it actually won't allow the flow to move forward. So you'll get an alert and you won't actually be able to move on to the next page. And so you'll have to go move that number down. Now, that doesn't stop you from submitting a second order if there's a valid reason you need more of what you're asking for. And so you could submit that additional order, and production might ask me, hey, why are they asking for 100 number 1 feed tubes? That seems ridiculous. And I might ask you why, but if it's a good reason, it's a good reason. Hopefully down the road, as we build this out, we certainly will have those sort of things where there can be some validation. So, Hector as an installer might have the ability to order a little more of something that sends a notification that it's more of something, but it's within his ability to request because of his role. Same with a service and repair technician, a senior technician, a team lead. They might have a little bit more capability to order a little bit extra of something for a reason. And then we're going to be able to track all that in production. So, at the end of the day, we can say, hey, this guy completed 1,300 tech calls last year, but ordered 7,500 feed tubes. What's the deal?
Also, getting back to the drop-down box, would it make sense? I don't know if it would just be maybe more beneficial for production if it was like the certain parts were able to be ordered like in a group, like let's say 5, 10, 15, 20 feed tubes, and that way production just kind of has those in bundles that they could just throw in. I don't know if that would, be a little bit quicker.
I don't think that's a bad idea. I think it's certainly the sort of thing that we should be looking at to improve their efficiency as well as our own. And so I'm more than happy to listen to any ideas like that. You get the three of you, everybody that's watching the video, y'all in production who are filling these orders. If you all have an idea that's going to make this process simpler for everyone, let's do it. let's do it. Share that idea in Slack, either in the team technician channel, FSL feedback channel. I want us all to take ownership of having good processes. I think that's one of the things that I try to do a lot, is get y'all's input, but there's certainly going to be blind spots for me, especially when we try to push something like this through. We had to have the platform before we could start sharing it and move forward. So share those ideas. I think that's a good idea. I will tell you right now, part of the reason for the quantities is because we didn't want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 as selections. But as you said, maybe having it always be a pack of 5 or 2 packs of 5, etc., might be a solution for a lot of this stuff. Very good point. Hector, Nico, other thoughts?
That about covers it for me.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. I think I've said my piece.
Well, I hope you haven't said all you have to say on this, because I know of you're the only one of us with a Six Sigma belt. So please feel free. I mean, keep the ideas coming. We want this process to improve. We want it to be for y'all to take ownership of it and make sure that the things you need for doing the job are on there. If it's not on there, it's because we either weren't aware that it was being used as widely as it is, or it just slipped my mind while I was typing out a list for Sean. So guys, I appreciate you taking the time and working through. I know we did have some errors early on. It turned out it was with a formula. So the formula has been repaired, and everybody else should have no issues. But if you do have an issue, please post that. Do not hit tap to resolve unless the tech support team asks you to. Screenshot it, post it in FSL feedback, tag at tech support, and then work with them to resolve this. One of my big pushes throughout, of course, this PM and training season is for all of us to take ownership of the errors that we receive and work with that tech support team to resolve them, because it doesn't just resolve our error and get our form into the system. It resolves an error that could be a problem for other technicians as well. Again, appreciate you guys jumping in with me and working through this with me, and we'll go from there.
Quick question before you go.
Sure.
I didn't really look into, but are certain parts that our water treatment technician would use, are they on there?
I'd have to go back and look. I know that was our intention when we started putting together. There might be. They're supposed to be, but I did not. The last time I actually checked that for specific stuff was back in September. And so I'll have to go back and make sure that we included those. I believe we do have the foot valves, the injection fittings, and I believe some of the head parts. I don't know if they can order pumps, because pumps are generally sold, not leased. Or even if they're leased, it's an equipment order. So for a new pump, so they don't walk around with motors for stenters like water management does. But I know the injection fittings and I know the foot valves are in there. I don't know about gasket sets and hardware for the heads. I will check on that. Very good question.
I don't remember if I saw Kynar on there.
There is Kynar. So in the tubing section, you can order Kynar tubing.
Okay.
It is on there. And that was one of the big things. One of my hopes for this, I'll tell you, I think this is really cool. And I think this is probably a 2022 thing that we start working on in 2022. But my hope is that all these sites that have Kynar, all of these sites that have larger pumps with thicker tubing, that all those, we've got that documented within Salesforce. And so when we want to schedule that PM and we know it's like a 3-person PM that's going to take 2 days, that is actually driving a work order and a service appointment where production ships out the kit for doing that bigger PM, that it's not our standard PM. Now, again, I say probably 2022 is when we start working on that. The fact that I'm saying it in a video means that more people are going to think about it, and they might be able to come up with the bandwidth to do it sooner. But really 2022 is probably when we start looking at it that way. A lot of work to do in our system before we get there. But that's the sort of thing that excites me, is that, we want to, as I said in the quarterly meeting, the goal is to not to take away y'all's autonomy. That is very valuable. Y'all's ability to think through a problem and solve it is what we value. But we want to kind of take away the uncertainty of how to get to the solution, right? So using the system to be able to do things like use math. You literally just use a formula, test the water chemistry when we do the equipment install, add a certain amount of a specific chemical, test the water chemistry again when we do the startup or the turnover, I should say. It's been 2 days, and then use that. Literally, the system just tells us what the volume of the pool is. We're not guessing anymore. We know the exact volume. And where does that help? Well, instead of us telling a customer they need to add 2 pounds per 10,000 gallons of a specific chemical, we can tell them they need to add 6.33 pounds of that chemical, because we know their exact volume down to, plus or minus 100 gallons. So things like that, driving those sorts of decisions for y'all so that you can implement the best solutions, use y'all's skills, use y'all's knowledge, but not have to do the more menial tasks that the system should be able to provide you with the knowledge. And same thing. Go ahead.
That's one more thing the tubing reminded me is maybe we could reorder some of the parts, at least the tubing in particular. I think we order the black tubing more than the Kynar. Maybe we could put those above the Kynar. That would be one thing.
Oh, is the Kynar at the top and the poly tubings below it?
I think they were in between.
Okay. Well, so I'll see if I can see if they can reorganize it. I don't know how it's organizing those. So I assume it's something that we can change, but I can't guarantee that. But we'll definitely look at that and definitely want to have the more common stuff towards the top. Absolutely. Well, so that's it for this, everyone. Thank you for joining in. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. All right, everybody. You don't have to hang up yet. I was gonna say hi. I just needed to end the video.